Greetings and salutations, and this is Tech Plays here, back with more Sonic Generations, and we are on to Seaside Hill Act 2, as you can see here, obviously. I want to do a conclusion to this week's main topic, because I've been talking about, the voice cats for Sonic games throughout the whole week. And last video, I could not finish the last subject I was talking about on that topic, which was literally the last thing I had to say about it. Was my dream voice cast for Sonic games. I got to say who I would cast for every character out of, their previous actors, except for one, Metal Sonic. And yes, I prefer Metal Sonic when he talks. That's why I love Neo Metal Sonic so much. I think Neo Metal Sonic is better than regular Metal Sonic because he can speak. So who would I cast? It's between Ryan Drummond, who voiced him in Sonic Heroes, and of course, Ray Chase, who voiced him in Shadow Generations. Now here's the thing. I think Ryan overall is just a better voice for Metal Sonic. He sounds way more menacing and whatnot. Ray Chase's Metal Overlord just sounds really angry as opposed to threatening. So I kind of like Ryan Drummond's Metal Sonic a lot more. Plus, I think the idea, I already have Jason Griffith as my dream Sonic voice for this dream voice cast. So I think it would be actually really awesome if my dream voice cast was put into play, Sega actually made this the main voice cast going forward. I think it'd be really awesome to have one Sonic voice actor be Sonic and then another one be Metal Sonic. Especially if the duo is Jason and Ryan. You might be wondering, what about Roger? Well, I don't care about Roger. I've been clear about that. Okay, here's the thing. I respect Roger as a voice actor overall. I think he does an amazing job, and I have seen him actually do a good Sonic. But by comparison, if I'm comparing him to Jason, Ryan, and Devin Mack, this might be a hot take, but I do think Roger is a better Sonic than Jalil White. Actually, it depends on which cartoon it is. If it's Sad AM, Jalil White was better, but if it's Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic Underground, then Roger was better. Fuck, why does that keep happening? But yeah, back to what I was saying. You can see here, I don't enjoy Seaside Hill as much. I love Seaside Hill in Sonic Heroes. Here, not so much. It feels like kind of a downgrade. I feel like part of the reason is because you could do so much in Sonic Heroes due to having 3 different characters, each with their own move set. So there isn't as much you can do here. Because, here's the thing. When you take the move set Sonic has in Generations, it's the same one he has in Unleashed. And somewhat the same one he has at the beginning of Frontiers. I say somewhat because the control scheme is different. And obviously there's a couple more abilities Sonic has in Frontiers, which is why I did specify the very beginning of it. So yeah. It's a pretty big, move set, all to be fair. Most of it actually even comes. Here's the thing, I'm actually surprised how long these abilities have lasted in the Sonic games. Okay, not really for the spin dash, not spin dash, homing attack. Homing attack makes sense to stay around as long as it has. And honestly, on any game that has the light speed dash gets a plus from me. I kinda hate the way the light speed dash is handled in Generations. If I'm not gonna lie, I think it's handled way better in. I think it's handled way better in Frontiers. I think Frontiers might be the first time they ever actually perfected the light speed dash, because it seems like they've been struggling with it for years. Because originally you had the original way it worked, which is the way it worked for Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog. In Heroes, it was super finicky because it shared a button with 2 other abilities, if I remember correctly. So with Heroes, you had to be super careful when you were performing the light speed dash. It was a little better in Shadow the Hedgehog, if I remember correctly. I don't remember ever accidentally, like, doing an ability when performing the light speed dash, but a lot of areas in Shadow the Hedgehog that required you to do it were built around you jumping before you did the light speed dash. So I feel like that's what saved it, because the light speed dash, if I remember correctly, was mapped to the spin dash button for Shadow. And I think it was the same way for SA2, if I remember. I forgot to mention it, SA2, when talking about this. But SA2, I think the light speed dash and SA2 and Shadow are kind of the same. And then Heroes is like slightly worse because you have an ability that uses the same button, both on the ground and in the air, so there's a chance you're gonna do one or the other. With Heroes and Shadow, it's slightly better, or not Heroes and Shadow, in SA2 and Shadow, it's slightly better, if I remember correctly.
I guess we have to run like there's no tomorrow.
06's light speed dash is more responsive than Shadow and Heroes, but it's still like a little weird. And then they hit Sonic Unleashed, which, if I remember correctly, it is in that game, and it is perfect there. It was perfect in Sonic Unleashed, and they brought that same exact version of it back for Frontiers, and I love it. It's just mapped to a different button. I do prefer, like, the light speed dash being mapped to a face button than the R3 button like it is in Frontiers. That is just my only gripe with that. I feel like it being mapped to a face button works better for people's muscle memory, because you use the face button to platform already. You use the face button to jump and homing attacks, so it just makes sense that the light speed dash would also be mapped to that. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion. On the flip side, I'm actually in favor of the boost being on the trigger buttons like it is now. I don't know. It varies. Funny thing is, even with the modern controls, because I do play both these games in this Let's Play with the modern like, Frontiers controls. With the modern controls, the light speed dash is still mapped to triangle like it was in the original generations, which I feel like was the right move. Because if I remember correctly, in Frontiers, it's mapped, if you play on PlayStation, it's mapped to the L3 button, if I remember correctly. Either L3 or R3, either one. And that's so weird when platforming. A lot of times when you light speed dash in Sonic games, at least when it's mandatory, it's in the middle of a platforming segment. So it's like, it's weird pressing, like, down the... It's weird pressing down the sticks for that, because you're moving with the... I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's just weird to push down the stick to do ability. That's what I'm saying. I already talked about my Dream like Sonic game cast. Actually, forgot Sage, but Sage has only got one VA. Same for Cubot and Orbot. They only got one VA, so don't really need to talk about them. Also, don't really need to talk about the Babylon Rogues, because they've had 2 VAs each, and their original VA did way better. So, you know, Jason as I think it was Jason who voiced, if I remember correctly, it was Jason who voiced Jet, because he already voiced Sonic and Shadow. I believe it was Blaze's VA who voiced Wave during the, This is the weird thing about Wave, is she's always shared a VA, and I don't think Jet and Storm share a VA. Actually, no, Storm does. I think Storm's also voiced by Travis Willingham, if I remember correctly. But I'm pretty sure, okay, so Storm has always shared a VA with Knuckles, which is funny. But Wave is different. Like, she shares a VA with Blaze at one point, and then a VA with Tails at one point. And I'm gonna fact check myself here, because I don't 100% remember if it was her 4 Kids voice that was shared with Blaze, or if it was I think it was, because I don't remember Laura Bailey playing, voicing her.
Ninja arts.
Voice of Wave the Swallow. Behind the voice actors. Yep, let's look at that. So Wave was voiced by Kate Higgins even after she stopped voicing Tails. Kind of interesting that they still had her around after that. She voiced her in 2016 for the Rio Olympic Games Sonic and Mario game. Okay, yes, she shared a VA with Blaze in the 4Kids era, and then with Tails in the modern era. Until Tails was recast, then I guess she just has her own VA.
Camouflage.
But let me actually take a look here. I'm kind of curious. Who was Jet's VA? Because I'm almost certain that... yeah. Storm was Travis.
Camouflage.
Someone named Michael Yurchak? Let me check something.
Camouflage.
Has he been the voice of... yes, he's been the consistent voice of Jet for all the Mario and Sonic games since then. Okay. That's interesting. So him and Wave both have unique VAs now, which is kind of cool, not gonna lie. I also find it interesting that Blaze has always shared a VA. No, I'm not wrong. Hear me out here. She's always shared a VA. In the 4Kids era, she shared one with, in the 4Kids era, she shared a voice with Wave. And ever since Free Riders, she shared a voice with Omochao. Both Laura and Erica also voice Omochao. And I know me calling her Erica might be confusing because Erica Schroeder, I hope I'm saying that last name right, voiced her in the 4Kids era. And Erica Lindbeck. So, I'm talking about Erica Lindbeck, just to be clear. Erica Lindbeck also voices, Omochao. Which I find funny. Imagine voicing the best Sonic character and the most annoying Sonic character at the same time. That's gotta take some talent right there, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I gotta give Laura credit for that. Even though she's not my favorite Blaze, she's kind of my least favorite. I gotta give her credit for being able to voice the best Sonic character and the worst Sonic character simultaneously.
I'll help you with the rings, Mr.
Okay, I'm over-exaggerating. Omochao's not the worst. That honor goes to Infinite. That's actually something that bugs me a little bit. I'm actually really bugged by the fact that there's like so many people who think Infinite should be brought back because they think Ian can do him justice or whatever. But after Forces, Infinite left such a bad taste in my mouth. I don't even want to see him done justice. I just want Sega and Sonic Team to just forget him forever. Because I don't care. If they want to bring back the concept of the Phantom Ruby, just give it to someone else. Please. Just give it to another character who's better. I don't care. I don't think Infinite can be saved or redeemed or whatever, because his backstory is already set in stone. They would have to retcon Forces and basically say Forces in its entirety is non-canon for Infinite to be fixed. So, yeah, I don't think they should ever bring Infinite back. Infinite isn't like Mephiles or Black Doom, who were just in bad games and could be done justice. Infinite was one of the main reasons the game was bad. That's the difference there. Infinite was one of the main reasons his game was bad. Mephiles and Black Doom were just in bad games. They were interesting villains with good concepts. They were just in bad games. Infinite is part of the reason his game is bad. In fact, I'd even argue, like, he's like almost half the reason. I say almost because most of the reason is the gameplay, obviously. but he is like the main reason the story is so trash for Forces. Aside from, you know, the writers for Forces just not knowing how to write a serious Sonic story. So glad. So glad. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the Ian Flynn haters out there. Actually, I'm not really sorry because y'all are on some crazy shit. Like, you guys literally get mad because he's writing one character the way you don't like, even though it's most likely Sega's mandate. Or not mandate, it's most likely Sega, what Sega is telling him to do. Just saying. Like, I honestly do believe that. I think it's Sega that's telling him to write Amy that way, and I think people hating Ian Flynn just because of Amy is so dumb, because the amount of characters he does so much justice by comparison outweighs that. Even, like, okay, even if it is Ian's fault, let's just what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just humor the idea for a minute. Even if it is Ian's fault, like, it's his decision to write Amy that way. Even if that's the case, okay, let's pretend that that's 100% the truth. We, like, fact. We know it's fact. And it's not just, like, what people assume. Amy is the one character he rates bad. The one character. Y'all are seriously gonna tell me that you would rather have the writers who wrote every character bad, with the exception of Eggman, including Amy, over someone who just writes only Amy bad? Okay. Okay. I see y'all. Okay, if that's the logic you want to go with, that's all I'm saying. Like, I think the previous writers wrote Amy even worse. Like, I really do. Because whenever they tried to, like, when in any game where they showed Amy's love for Sonic or her passion or anything, they wrote it really poorly. And then in any game where they didn't do that, they were doing the same thing Ian Flynn was. So, you guys literally hating on Ian Flynn when, one, it's most likely Sega's decision, and two, the previous writers wrote Amy even worse. And literally, Amy's the only character people bitch and moan about with Ian Flynn. Like, no one hates the way he writes Sonic. Well, a few people hate the way he writes Sonic in the comics, but in the games, no. No one hates the way he writes Tails. No one hates the way he writes, Knuckles or Shadow or Rouge or Blaze. Hell, even though we've barely seen any example of it in recent times, because I never read the comics before. I never read the comics before IDW, and to be fair, I watched the IDW comics on YouTube because I can't afford to own comics. So yeah, I already pay for like gaming stuff and like a couple subscriptions and then like, you know, important shit. So I don't need comics done on top of that, so I just watch them on YouTube. But from what I've seen of how he writes Blaze, he is the first, like, the way Blaze is written in IDW is the first time I've seen Blaze shown like respect and care as a character. Treated with respect and care as a character since Black Knight, and Black Knight wasn't even the real Blaze. So just saying, just saying. Okay, that's a lie. She was kind of treated well in Team Sonic Racing, which is why I still believe. I'm not sure if I'm right on this, but I'm pretty sure it was not the 2010s writers who wrote Team Sonic Racing. It had to be a different writer, because none of the characters in Team Sonic Racing are written the way they wrote them. I'm actually gonna fact check that. Team Sonic Racing writer. Seaside Racing developer, publisher, director, publishers. Okay, I don't care about none of that. Tell me who the writer is. You're kidding me. There is no Pontac and Graf. No. You're lying to me. There is no way in hell they wrote the characters in Team Sonic Racing. You're fucking lying to me. There's no way they wrote the best portrayal those characters had in years. And still have had in years. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Ian is a great writer for the series, but I feel like Frontiers really didn't get to show the characters at their best because of how serious it was. And the rewrite for Generations is mostly good, but there's a few misses here, so I'm kind of waiting until they have a game that's less serious. Actually, no. Ian has proven himself. He wrote Shadow Generations, that's right. Shadow Generations is literally a perfect example. But the only characters we get to see written there are Shadow, Black Doom, and then like Mephiles, Neo Metal Sonic, as Metal Overlord, obviously, and then oh, we're already to Perfect Chaos. Jeez, I'm just flying through this game. Literally on Monday we were fighting the Death Egg robot. On Friday we're already at Perfect Chaos. Jeez. Well, to be fair, I am uploading 3 videos of this game a week instead of 2, which the original plan was to do 2. Mainly because I have almost the entirety of Acrobat recorded, and I want to get these videos out and done with so I can hurry up to Acrobat. And then after Acrobat, I'm doing Arafel, and then I'm doing Aravel. And then if players don't change, I'm doing like, what is it, Kina Bridge of Spirits or whatever. I think that's what the game's called. I don't know. I haven't touched the game yet. Never touched the game before, actually. Sonic and Shadow Generations, second run of the game. Acrobat will be my first playthrough of that game. Arafel will be my second playthrough, similar to Sonic and Shadow Generations, but it'll be like a year or 2 apart. So I'll forget a lot of stuff. And then Kina Bridge of Spirits will be my first run, similar to Acrobat. So yeah. But no, I refuse to believe Pontac and Graf wrote. There's no way that they wrote Team Sonic Racing, because Team Sonic Racing is the best some of those characters have been written since the 4Kids cast. And some of those characters still haven't been written better, at least not in the games. They've been written better by Ian in the comics, but not in the games. But yeah. No, really, like, I'm actually impressed that was them. No, because they're shit writers for this series. How the fuck did they write Team Snow? One of the best written games since Black Knight. No, there is no, I refuse. No, they didn't write it. No, Ian Flynn wrote it or something. No, it wasn't them. I refuse to believe. It was not Pontac and Graf. It was a ghostwriter of some kind. It was not Pontac and Graf. No, I refuse to believe. I will stand by the refusal to believe. They did not write Team Sonic Racing. You want to know how I know they didn't write Team Sonic Racing? I'm going to tell you. Because they admitted they don't understand, like, the characters and lore and all that stuff as deeply. And there are some mentions in Team Sonic Racing that they would not know unless they went deeper into the lore of the games and the characters and stuff. I'm pretty sure they admitted at some point at just reading like some Wikipedia stuff or something. Which means they would not know some of the stuff like referenced and mentioned in Team Sonic Racing. So I know for a fact they didn't write that shit. Unless Sega was like, okay, unless you guys can like actually try, you ain't writing this one. And then they actually tried. That's the only like outcome I could see where like, oh, they actually wrote Team Sonic Racing. I honestly feel like the Sonic games should be co-written, though. I feel like you should have, like, a more serious writer like Ian Flynn, but then you should have, like, a more comedic writer working with Ian Flynn, because I feel like Sonic games work best when they got a little of both. That's what makes Unleashed so great. That's what makes the adventure games and Heroes so great. They're mostly, you know, serious with a little bit of comedy, except Heroes. That's more comedy with a little bit of seriousness. But you know what I mean, like, those 4 games have that in common, and that's what makes their writing so great. Same with the Rush games. The Rush games are the same way. They're a mix of seriousness and comedy, so I feel like the best they could do for, like, the Sonic series is to have it co-written. Kind of like they were doing with Pomtac and Graph, but instead of 2 comedy writers, have it be Ian Flynn and a comedy writer. A comedy writer who actually knows shit about the series and didn't just read a quick thing and admitted to reading a quick thing. Just saying. Just the way I feel about it. Sorry about all my ramblings this week, but I feel strongly about these things, and I just wanted to get some opinions out of my head because I don't really interact with the Sonic fanbase a lot because they complain and bitch and moan about everything, but I do witness the stuff they complain and bitch and moan about via YouTube videos and stuff, and this is just my way of, like, expressing my opinion without somebody trying to argue with me. I'm basically doing it on my grounds in a non-argumentative way because I want to keep the peace. I just want to state my opinion, keep the peace. We don't gotta discuss it. We don't gotta argue. You don't gotta agree with me. Okay. I just want to state my opinion, keep the peace. That's why I'm doing it here and not in a comments section.
We sure could use a miracle.
I'm not gonna spend all day in a comment section arguing with someone. That's dumb.
Your speed has been able to restore our friends.
Like, those people have no lives, I swear. But anyway, sorry I'm talking over this cutscene. I'm gonna shut up.
All 7 emeralds.
You're on.
You guys have your work cut out for you.
An adventure's no fun if it's too easy.
Okay, now I can talk again. We're going to be ending off the video right about here. So, bye.